Welcome to another episode of the Metal Roundup. We'll be talking this week about the metal scene and popularity, in a sense, because of a recent video from Rick Beato talking about, like, is metal dying, essentially? And I've got some takes on that. Burb, I know, has made a video about this, but it'd be great to chat about that in a bit more detail. Because from our standpoint, there's a lot of exciting bands that are up and coming. There are ones that have proven that can still happen in the modern day and age, obviously the Sleep Token. And I think, as ever, there's some nuance to this that maybe those like us who are more closely plugged into the metal aspect of the music industry might have some more informed takes, perhaps, on some bits and pieces. So, perhaps to start, Burb, do you want to summarize your take from your kind of video? What's your overall thought? Like, what was Rick Beato essentially saying, and where do you think the gaps might be in what he's saying?
Yeah, sure, no problem. Sorry, it's morning. I'm working on my coffee, and I'm running on a new PC. Sorry if my mic settings are not how they usually are. But yeah, I made a video about it because Rick Beato, I don't know how much content you guys watch of him, but I really like him. He's up there as one of my favorites, actually, in terms of a music content creator, his knowledge and everything. I think he's the man. I really like him. And this video, I went into it just thinking, like, yeah, I want to hear what he has to say. And basically his whole argument is that if we're looking at Spotify numbers, and he usually uses Spotify numbers to equate to a lot of his conclusions. But basically that a lot of the classic metal acts like Metallica, Linkin Park have way more listens and streams than modern acts. And why is that? It seems like people are still listening to the old bands and not enough of the new bands. And he does a good job of citing a lot of the new bands. He talks about Bad Omens. He talks about Sleep Token. He talks about all these bands that we are familiar with. But then he also does mention Pierce the Veil quite a bit. I'm like, I don't know if they're in that conversation, but he goes on.
Got metal moments.
Yeah, they got some metal moments. They're a great band. Don't get me wrong. I love them. But then as the video kind of goes on, he starts talking about like how kids don't play instruments anymore. And then he starts talking about how they're more into fitness and social media. And he just doesn't see it like how it was back in the day. And this is where he started to lose me personally. I'm like, I don't agree with that. And then also I started to just kind of realize that my whole counter argument to this was like, sure, a lot of these classic bands have more listens and streams than the modern bands, but that was a different time. That was when radio and MTV was at its popularity, and labels are like, they were only pushing out so many songs to the general mass audience. And now with social media and every algorithm being to each individual, we just have so much more music. So we have so much more options. It's the same thing in that we can look at like Netflix and all these streaming platforms. We have so much television. We have so much content, but there's still bands that are blowing up. And I'm sure we'll talk about like Bad Omens, Sleep Token. Like these bands are selling out arena shows now. Like I remember, like, Steve, when we were younger, I don't remember these bands like selling out these kind of shows. Like, sure, we can look at the Linkin Parks and System of a Downs doing that too. But I'm talking about like the Kill Switch Engages, the All That Remains. Like they weren't selling out arenas. I don't remember that. It was like medium-sized shows in the city. So I think Bad Omens and Sleep Token and Bring Me the Horizon doing that is a huge testament to how popular metal is right now.
Yes, you've made some very good points. Yeah. And things I want to expand on, certainly, because I understand Rick Beato's logic, and I do see a correlation between kids picking up guitar to want to be a rock star earlier on in more numbers will lead to more bands happening, and therefore more bands being successful. Odds are, and maybe there's less of that today. I don't know if that's necessarily the truth, because like kids go to school and they learn instruments. Like there's always music lessons at school, and there's plenty of instrument content on TikTok. And actually, that's a way of impressing your friends. It's like, look at this fucking crazy thing. It's a little bit different in that they tend to be focusing now on doing like a 30-second amazing burst rather than songwriting. And that's a bit of a jump from that to bands and all the rest. But I could see that as a factor. I don't know if it's as dominant as the point you make, which is that back in that day, there weren't as many people making the heavy rock music. It was still kind of, scary to some people in its own way. And because of that, the same songs would get replayed over and over on the radio. So of course you're familiar. If you're looking for some heavy rock, the Linkin Park songs, because you've heard each one of those singles fucking 100 times on the radio or on MTV2 or whatever it is. So you're more familiar with them. That's a factor, because now Spotify makes it so easy to listen to a wide variety of things. So even my favorite bands do not have as high a listen count per track, I'm sure, than the ones I had when I was a teenager on CD, because I just played the CD. It was effort to change CD, to, go in my rack and put the CD back in the case. I'm like, I'll just listen to the same songs for ages. So that is a factor. But the one point as well I think is missing from all this is the aspect of time. Because like Linkin Park, when did Hybrid Theory come out? I must have been like 16. It's like 2 decades.
Yeah.
And anything that is out there will grow in audience size over time. Because everyone that knew Linkin Park back then still know them now, will think to listen to them. And any new person that discovers it just adds to that. Like 2 decades worth of awareness equals way more awareness in the modern day compared to the likes of Bring Me the Horizon, which are much later starting that. And Metallica, we're talking fucking, what is that, 3-4 decades? Like loads of time. So that aspect is not, you can't compare like for like in terms of awareness, because they've had decades more than the bands of today. The fact that Sleep Token, as an example, are even in the millions and the comparison to the likes of Metallica is fucking insane, because they've been going for 10 years and only really been known for like 2. So that's not really been addressed. It's like, let's pause and see what happens in 20 years' time. Let's see what Bring Me the Horizon's listenership is on Spotify in 20 years. I bet it's nuts.
Yeah, I thought about that
Steve.
as well.
I love that.
I did think about that as well, with the numbers not being comparable, because Linkin Park have been around for so much longer than Sleep Token, for example. And that was one of the main bands he used as his example for like a modern band. That's doing well, but is still comparatively, from a monthly listener standpoint, nowhere near. So I was thinking, like, how can you compare? Because one band, like you said, Steve, has been around for so long. So it doesn't make sense to compare those numbers, because one band has had so much more time. But if it's on a monthly listener standpoint, and I get it, this is where it comes into just like over time, over a 20-year period, there's going to be more monthly listeners that build up. But I guess on a monthly listener basis, it is a like for like comparison, because it's a monthly thing right now. But again, that's something I didn't consider with your points, that there's going to be more people to listen to it monthly because of the exposure they've had over a longer period of time. So if anything, you could spin it the other way and be like, it's actually impressive that the likes of Sleep Token and Bring Me the Horizon and some of these other bands, with the amount of competition that there is today, like you mentioned again, Steve, there's so much competition for music out there. So if there was only Bring Me the Horizon, Sleep Token, and Bad Omens, and maybe like 5 other bands that were being shown on MTV right now, and we didn't have access to the internet, their numbers would be insane as well. But
bonkers.
Like, we have, like, the underground scene is obviously what we're going to talk about in a bit, but like, that's booming from my experience. Like, there's bands each and every week at this point that are like popping up out of nowhere, getting like hundreds of thousands of monthly listeners like this. So yeah, I mean, in one way you can, it's really just a perspective thing in which way you look at it, because you can almost take the statistics and kind of morph them to build whatever argument you want to build. Like, you can make the argument of like, yeah, so you can really manipulate them. So it's kind of funny in that way. But I was trying to find the YouTube channel that I watched the video on about the topic, and he made a really good point about the thing that Burb touched on with the instruments, where kids not being into metal, or not getting into, I keep going on the focus here, I don't know what's going on, but kids not being into metal as much. What is happening? I don't know what's happening.
Your camera's like, you said it now.
Yeah, I need to brighten my light.
Time out, Drew.
It's losing me. There was a video, I'm trying to find the channel so I can quote him, but he said something along the lines of, which is again something that when I initially heard Rick Beato, and this kind of calls back to a point before where I was even mentioning that people don't have their own opinions anymore. I just heard Rick Beato and I was like, oh, he's right. And then I heard a counterpoint to it and I was like, wait, he's right now. So I was thinking about it, and the guy was basically saying that for someone generally to get into playing an instrument, they are usually people who would listen to a genre and find that genre and then learn to play the instrument. Like, for me, I didn't like want to play the guitar and then find metal music. I found the genre first, and then I was like, oh, that's sick, I'm inspired to go and play this instrument. Whereas Rick Beato is almost spinning it the opposite way, where he's saying that there's less kids playing instruments now, and therefore there's less people interested in metal music because of that reason, but it's almost the opposite of that. Am I explaining that well? You get where I'm coming
Yes,
from?
I think you're right. The instrument is a tool to get you to where you want to be. You start with where you want to be. Like, oh, I want to be like that rock star. How do I get? Okay, he's playing guitar. I'll learn guitar.
Yeah.
That's how you probably choose an instrument. Because arbitrarily, you could choose any. Well, I'd start with the clarinet. So go, and then I found myself into a deathcore band. I don't know if that's necessarily the way around that would happen.
Yeah, I think my takeaway from it was, and the guy explained this much better. I should have taken some points. I can't even remember his channel name, but he, like Rick was saying, that another reason as to why metal is dying is because kids have so much distractions. They're not playing the instruments anymore because they're playing Fortnite or they're playing this game and they have so many distractions. Why would they spend any time learning an instrument? Yeah. But the guy was saying that most people, like, God, I'm butchering this. I'm really butchering this. Fuck, I wish if I could find the fucking channel and just have that snippet ready to go. But
like, there have always been distractions in the era that metal and rock has existed. Like, I played the shit out of the Sega Mega Drive. I still find a way to play drums and learn guitar and stuff.
Books and a bunch of other stuff too.
Yeah. Also, the idea like, well, kids aren't drinking alcohol anymore. They're all about fitness now, and therefore they don't like music. What the fuck are you talking about?
It was the most out of touch comment in the entire video. I'm just like, what?
But
like
the only explanation undertone of that is that kids in the younger generations today are less broken inside because they're very healthy and they're drinking less and they're doing more responsible things, and therefore they don't turn to something that's an emotional outlet like heavy rock and metal because they don't need it because they're not fucked. But I would argue that every generation is a little bit fucked in the head.
Yeah,
true. I think that's insane.
But it seems like Gen Z is looking at millennials like, oh, we didn't want to be those miserable drunks, so they're drinking less.
Yeah, I would have said this generation's fucked.
Yeah,
like,
that I know with
today, just with
that's
social
how I feel
media and
too.
shit. Yeah. But I feel like every generation above always thinks that about the new generation.
Yeah. One thing that I wanted to mention too was, like, I've seen some counter arguments that they actually, with us, that they actually agree with Rick, and I find it kind of interesting. But I think if we're going to look at another criteria, is that I think a lot of traditional metal, like the thrash metal of Metallica and stuff, and even like, the actual like hair metal stuff from then is gone. And like, because these people won't say that, like, Bad Omens and Sleep Token is like a proper metal band. That's a huge point of discussion. Are these bands really metal? But to me, I got to see how the music is evolving, and I'm always like looking for what's the next fresh thing. So to me, this is what metal is, and it's evolving to. I think it's just a different sound, but that is a point that people would probably make, is that, that traditional metal, it's not getting as much radio airplay. So in a way, that metal is kind of dead a little bit. It's in the undergrounds.
Yeah, it exists. It's become a niche within its own niche, but part of that's going to happen because it's sort of related to what we were talking about before about generations and how close to each other generations tend not to get on as much, because you kind of want to build your own thing and rebel against what happened before you. And so the metal of the older era, for example, metal that follows that is less likely to be like that because people want to make their own thing. They want to evolve something. And that older era is going to, by nature of evolution and the fact that we're all going to die one day, is going to die out because the fans are going to get aged out and perish, essentially. Same will happen to us. New metal will probably die completely one day when all the generations that have enjoyed it are gone. It'll be a niche thing. Like some bands today will be making rockabilly bands that is not mainstream, but was decades and decades ago, but no longer is, because that's just not what the current or newer generations are interested in. And like, it's like metal obviously evolves, and some people will not allow for that. Actually, no, this was a certain moment in time that metal existed, and everything after this, post-metal, whatever it is just garbage because it's not this thing. It's different. Like rock music was started from, like, I'm sure it was like blues first, and then it came to rock. And that's still, you still look at that and say, like, that is like Elvis Presley was rock. And listen to it now, you're like, so is that rock? It's sort of like pop, I don't know, like pop bluesy something.
Yeah.
But that's where rock started, and it's evolved. It's still rock's just a new form. So like Bad Omens, you're right, is in a different lane to most of what most people in the public, I think, would consider to be public. Non-metal listeners would consider to be metal, but it's like I think post-metalcore is how you put it, Burr, which I think is probably a pretty accurate description.
I don't think I've ever used that term before, but
Oh, have you not? Oh, well, then it's mine.
yeah. Well, like post-hardcore, but yeah, Bad Omens, I guess, kind of is. I don't know. There's new subgenres all the time.
Yeah, I think that's where we maybe like we teased and joked about the idea of what we would call the next era, like alternative metal or post metalcore, because it's like Bad Omens used to be a metalcore band, and I guess same with Bring Me were there. Well, Bring Me are still
Dayseeker
kind of,
as well.
yeah. So it's like, do we just bow down to the cum metal, or are we going to actually have a more marketable or broader term that can be used around your parents? Like, so what do you listen to? It's like, oh well, it's this thing called post metalcore. You can't say cum metal around your parents.
It's cum metal, Dad. Leave me alone.
It's post cum.
It's post cum metal. Yeah,
post cum metal. But yeah, like it's funny because like you're the metal band, the most widely renowned, just straight up metal band, Metallica. If you compare like their heaviest moments to, and I know it's not just a metric of like who can be heavier is what makes a metal band, but like, although Bad Omens fall into that category, and I completely get it why like traditional metalheads would look at Bad Omens and be like, well, it's not metal anymore. The heaviest moment in Bad Omens set is gonna be ridiculously heavier than anything that Metallica put on in this day and age, which is this funny contradiction, because it's like, oh, which one is the metal band? If you just take a clip from Dethroned by Bad Omens and then like some riff from Metallica, and you say which one is what would you consider to be more metal, you would point at Bad Omens. Although Metallica don't have all of the other, modern metal,
Pop
metal
stuff,
bells and whistles that come with it. But it's interesting because even the crowds and everything are now reflecting that new audience as well, which I guess we can get into a bit later on with Steve's going to see Bad Omens tonight, and then I seen them on Friday just gone. Friday. And the crowd it's been like a big topic of conversation about the crowd, and apparently it was the same in Glasgow, and I noticed it for myself. The crowd was very different, and it does change the atmosphere of the shows. So yeah, I guess we can go into that at some point.
Different in what way, Drew?
It was shit. Like the crowd was shit. Like it was really, really bad. Obviously it's just a different crowd. Like the split was like 50-50, and it wasn't shit because it was 50-50 split before. It actually makes
cancel this man.
Yeah, but no, like the crowd, I was like trying to see if it was just a position that I was in. I was kind of further back in the middle, like looking at the full stage, and I had a good view of pretty much the entire lay of the land leading up to the stage, and there was just like nothing really happening. It was kind of just everyone standing there watching, which is okay. People can spend their money and do whatever the fuck they want with it. I almost certainly wasn't jumping around like in the pit and everything, so I'm not like trying to lead from the front line here and be like, we need to go and mosh. But obviously in a live environment, you'd like to see more atmosphere, and it really just was pretty fucking dead. And a lot of people were complaining about it online, and people were commenting on my video and kind of agreeing with my sentiment. I was like, did anyone else feel like the crowd was really dead? Because I didn't want to just come out and say that crowd sucked, because other people in a different part may have had a different opinion. But a lot of the sentiment online was that crowd sucks. And yeah, that plays into the whole like how the landscape of metal is changing. It's definitely more accessible, which means that some people might have only been there for some of the more popular songs that are less in the dethrone realm and more in the realm of like just pretend. And then when the heavy stuff hits in, they're like, okay, But yeah, I wonder how many people actually just buy tickets because they know one or two songs and are actually completely shocked by the fact that Bad Omens are a really heavy band. You'd wonder. Like, I would like to think that people are spending that kind of money on a ticket, they would have some idea of the range and variety across the discography.
Not necessarily.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I would usually go to a concert if I know the majority of the discography. So I guess maybe some people just consume it differently.
Yeah, it might be just different social groups have different priorities when it comes to that. If you're more interested in like, I love these songs, I want to see this live as an experience. I don't have time, or I'm not interested in hearing the whole discography first. I just want to hear these songs, off we go, and maybe I'll learn something. Maybe that's something that the newer crowd is more interested in. Or, it might be part of it as well. And I've noticed this more in the pop or hip hop world. I've been to gigs of, some of it is people want to be seen to be going to the gig. more than they want to actually see all of the songs live. You know, the phones are up for a lot of it.
Mm-hmm.
And like, where was it? Electric Callboy. There were some folks near us who I think they were kind of influencer types. My brother clocked this, and they were taking lots of videos during it, and the videos were of themselves, not really of the stage, but of themselves in the crowd. Woo! So like, there's different priorities by different folks that will join a gig, and as you get a new influx of new audience, you're going to get some new traditions of how to enjoy a gig, and they might, hopefully, learn to kind of mosh and have a more active time potentially if that is a better atmosphere.
It reminds me of when I saw Lorna Shore and To the Hellfire Breakdown. Everyone was on their phone just recording that part. But like, how many people are actually here for like the rest of Lorna Shore's music, or just to hear the To the Hellfire Breakdown just so they can like put it on their Instagram story or something? But yeah, and then I guess going back to Bad Omens, like I saw them in 2023, maybe in a. I remember the crowd. There was 3 people that like passed out, and Noah actually had to stop the set and walk off so that way security can actually go and help these people, and then they would come back on later. And I was talking to the guys at Era, because Era was opening for Bad Omens, and they were basically saying like, oh man, this is happening all the time on this tour. I'm like, why is this happening? It's like, because there's so many newbies to concerts that are not used to being in such like close proximity. They're not, keeping themselves hydrated and all this stuff. So I guess to go to your point, Drew, maybe a lot of these concert goers are just new. They don't know, the ways, they don't understand moshing and all this stuff. And that really does happen, especially with Bad Omens being like a gateway band for people that are into the scene. They don't understand mosh etiquette and standing to the side. If you're going to stand in the middle, it's going to be moshy. But it sounds like there wasn't a lot of energy in that crowd, and that's probably just because Bad Omens' new music is just not that really. They're not really a heavy band that kind of asks for it, really. So they have like the odd breakdown, but
yeah, it'd be hard to mosh to Spectre.
Yeah, it's not really. It's the same thing as Sleep Token, right? Sleep Token's not really a moshy band.
Yeah, true.
The Offering breakdown. Look at this deal, these moments. But yeah, for a lot of it is to stand there and soak in the atmosphere that they're creating.
Yeah. There's also, I know Steve's going to see them tonight, so I'm trying to dance around it a little bit just to not spoil the show. But like, obviously their production has increased dramatically since even you would have seen them with the Bring Me the Horizon. That was probably the last time you seen them, Steve, right?
Yeah, they had a couple of LED screens. Some
as you kind of expect with a supporting band. You're not going to expect them to have the full thing, but the production is definitely something that when they put that much effort into it, and like we've talked about, the music itself, the newer stuff doesn't really lend itself for the most part to moshing and jumping around. So when you pair those things together with the production being a little bit like, whoa, the production is there to kind of be a massive part of the show. So a lot of people are just taking that in. So it does kind of almost lead you to just be in a trance looking at all the lights and all the craziness that's going on. So yeah, I don't know. They can't really be, the band aren't complaining about it, but yeah, it's a weird one because it's like a split crowd, because there is some people that are there for like the really heavy stuff, and they're upset about the like mosh etiquette not being followed by a lot of the new people, and then the new people are kind of freaked out by the moshing and like, what's the big deal? Why do people care about like jumping around? Like, we're here, we can view the show however we want. So yeah, it's an interesting one, because it seems like, I know hip hop has adopted like almost metal culture in the live environment in some aspects, with like, I know Travis Scott and everything for a couple of years, like his live crowds have almost become like, metal shows in the way in which the crowd behave. Like there's a lot of moshing at those shows.
Isn't metal? Isn't that where a lot of people died at his show? Wasn't that Travis Scott?
Well, that was, I think, because they just well oversold the tickets and people were breaking in as well. But like, just in general, he has like his whole like theme around his shows is like raging. So it's like essentially moshing, it's been taken directly from metal. And it's funny because metal shows are now almost like hip hop shows, and hip hop shows, I don't know if they're still like that, but I know when Travis Scott brought out Astroworld around that era, like a lot of the big like hip hop and rap adjacent artists were having crazy live shows that were like essentially metal shows, And now it seems to be not as big of a thing. But again, you can't really use Bad Omens as the best example of like, oh, moshing is dead at shows. It's not really the...
Yeah.
It's, yeah. Well, going back to Travis Scott, that guy's such a POS, man.
Yeah.
Like, he could have stopped the crowd so many times, but he didn't. Like, there was people, like, warning signs and everything. Like, if the thing is, like, with metal shows, there's so many times where people, like, a vocalist will, like, stop the crowd or stop the song just because they see something going on.
They're more familiar with the risks, perhaps, because of the regularity of it.
Yeah,
probably.
Potentially.
But apparently Travis Scott actually asked it on, like Drew was saying. Kind of his thing to rage.
Yeah, he seems like a bit of a dickhead. I've seen a few videos of him, but yeah, who knows? Like, I mean, there was a lot of controversy around it. Even his, like, apology behind it was just so weird after the fact. But yeah, that's you know, it's not really our wheelhouse, is it?
No, not really.
Travis Scott and like his apology from like 5 years ago. Like,
I'm sure a lot of metalheads would agree, though. That was a big thing that happened. But I with Bad Omens, like, if everyone was like moshing in that crowd, say if they were playing, or no, if everyone song was like a heavy hitter, like there would be so many people passing out. Like my story, where there was like, you know, I saw 3 people that had to be pulled from the crowd. Yeah. Like if this was the case with your show, Drew, where they were just playing heavy songs, there'd be so many newbies and so many people not used to the moshing stuff. It would be this shit show.
Yeah.
So they have an interesting crowd because there is a lot of new concert goers. And I think probably the same with Sleep Token. A lot of people are discovering metal through Sleep Token, and then they'll go to these shows, and if there is a mosh pit, they'll be like, ooh.
But then, like, all the time for the last decades, there have been newcomers to the heavy scene. Like, I was a newcomer going to festivals in my teens and discovering, oh, fuck, there's a whole pit that's opened up next to me. I'm going to die. But, like, you know, you find a way to retreat to safety and you make it work. But, like, I think these concerts are safer now than they ever have been because we know more about how to manage all that stuff. And I was trying to say something about what Drew was talking about. Like, the metal today is heavier than it was, and I agree with that. But it's all you see, it's relative, because what they were doing at the time, say Metallica, was like insanely heavy for the era. So it's kind of thinking in my head, like, well, maybe a difference in popularity now is because this stuff is so much more heavy and chaotic and progressive and mad that it's too niche compared to. But actually, at the time, Metallica was insanely niche for what it was they were doing, and other bands of that ilk. And same thing in like the harder rock that followed that. This is a theory I have no basis for, other than just finger in the air, and this is what I'm seeing. But I suspect there is a similar percentage of society now that there was 10 years ago and 20 years ago and 30 years ago that are into more aggressive music and the more, you know, strange and aggressive. Like, I think it's probably about the same, but that audience will find different versions of what is aggressive or unusual and different. So I think there probably is a way to more or less like for like compare popularity of bands like Metallica versus popularity of bands like, I don't know, Architects today as another kind of example, because I think it's the same kind of niche it's always been. I don't think metal will ever be like consistently top of the Billboard charts, because I think the part of the point of it is to be a little bit out there, a little bit edgy, and not do something that's completely satisfying for most people to enjoy. I don't know. I feel like partly what I want to do in the content world is increase the size of people that enjoy the more aggressive music that I love. I think that'd be a really fucking cool thing. But I just doubt that we'll ever get to the point where it's going to be comparable to pop music, country music, etc. That it's a little bit more palatable in more situations than the aggressive stuff that we're enjoying here.
And the aggressive stuff is not anything that's like easily accessible by the radio. It's like the energy is mad. It's anger, right? Like that doesn't really sell well. You want something that's light and bubbly to ease you through your Mondays. That's why they put on the radio, not something that goes.
Imagine having Laura Shore featuring in like adverts for the new Samsung TV. Oh God.
Yeah. No, it's also like it goes very well with the current, I suppose, social landscape as well. Like the world is definitely quite tense at the moment with a lot of things going on. So I guess it does lend itself well metal wise. Like metal music does lend itself to a lot of the frustrations and anger that a lot of people are feeling, whether it just be like, my fucking rent is due. The second I pay my rent, I have to pay this bill and then this bill and then this bill, and I'm working my fucking ass off. And then at the end of the day, I have like 50 euro left to myself. I'm fucking pissed off. I'm going to the gym. Do I want to listen to some happy shit? No, fuck off. Like, you know, it does, the current state of the world does fit the criteria for a period of time in which metal would be on the rise. So
You're right.
Such a good point. Because you can even look back at like the 70s with like the Vietnam War and stuff, and then the hippie movement was like a counterpoint to that.
Yeah.
Right. And like I remember even during like the coronavirus, like I remember just like I feel like music's getting heavier. I feel like people are cooped up. What the fucking scared me?
I'm just seeing your TV going.
I know. But no, that's a really good point, Drew.
Yeah. I think people are it's kind of like, yeah, it's, I suppose Rage Against the Machine and everything had their outbreak and everything as well. Politically charged stuff. I know Stray was kind of like a more modern version of it, but yeah, it just lends itself so well to politics and counter politics.
Okay, so what you're saying is we
go.
need to, in the background here, create some web that makes sure that the world is always in a slightly fucked place, so people really enjoy metal forever.
We don't have to create anything like that, Steve. We're doomed. Like it's, we are there right now. We just need to keep doing what we're doing.
I think you're making a fucking good point. Like things are so difficult economically and politically right now everywhere that I don't think the answer is I just haven't met you yet.
Yeah.
Like we're just there's more that we do to express it.
Okay,
like
but
that.
on the counterpoint, I don't want this to be doom and gloom because there's a lot of things to be happy about. Okay, I know there's, you know, I'm not trying to be all like the world is, you know, the sky is falling. But to your points, like at certain points, you do just have to go like, you just say like, there's too much noise around me. I'm switching off because I don't know about you guys, but anytime you turn on your phone, it's like the next thing and the next thing. And it's hard to know whether or not the world has always been like this or we're just so connected to everything now that like there was always something happening in the world. Let's say 50 years ago, there was always some tragedy happening somewhere. Living conditions were far worse than they, you know, this is the best period of time statistically to ever be alive, you know, in all of human history. So like we are in a very good time, but obviously being so connected to absolutely everything, the second you pick up your phone, it's like the worst news ever. You turn on the TV. Oh, here's the worst news. So you are almost gaslit into believing that we are in the worst time ever. So you do at some points just have to go like, you know, phone's going off.
Yeah, that's true.
You know?
But that's that shit drives engagement. It's always been like that. Like you look at the news and like that's how like they're getting like their revenue, these sites and everything. That's how they're driving engagement. So like it's like you said, we're being gaslit into it. Just turn it off because you go outside. Oh, it's actually not that bad. Like it's a kind of an off topic, but personal thing. But like Mexico, like where my family is from, you know, if you look up stuff on Mexico, oh, is it safe to be there? Cartels run it and like everything. Like it, yeah, for sure, it's dangerous. But every time I go, I've never felt unsafe there. But mind you, I'm not like going out trying to find cocaine or something.
Cocaine.
Yeah, I mean, in a similar way, I enjoy stand-up comedy, and I don't think there's been a single year in people putting out comedy specials where someone has me going like, yeah, the world's pretty fucked up right now, isn't it? Like it always is fucked up. We're always on the brink of humanity just destroying each other and perishing. Like that's always the case. And, you know, maybe if you look back over the last 20 years or so, you realize, oh yeah, things have been tough here and there, but ultimately we've cobbled through. We'll probably still do that in some form.
Yeah. The most optimistic situation about everything is that we are so aware of how bad it could get if we go to another war that we can't actually do it. Like there has to be some point where someone just goes, you know, we can't actually go there. So it almost feels like that's the fail-safe that we have now. Whereas
it
wars
is
before,
mutually assured destruction.
Yeah, like we have mutually assured destruction now. So it's just like, well, we have two options here. We go ahead here and we're all gone, or we don't. You know, there's no other option. So that's bit of positivity for you guys today. Somehow that's the most positive thing we said. Is that like we
Isn't that
can't
great?
blow each other up, because if we do, there'll be no one left.
There'll be no metal bands or anything.
If there was a sudden surprise nuke from one country to another, it's like, oh, just launch them and then kaboom. Satellites would launch the counter nuke. Like there's no one would survive. And you don't, this is pointless.
I have one of the best segues we've ever had on this channel. So much so that I can't even just segue into it. I can't even just say, I have to like explain the segue. I've been thinking about asking this question for so long. On the topic of nuclear destruction and the planet falling apart, imagine there is a nuke about to land. You've been warned, the sirens go off, okay? You're sitting at home and you've no one around you. All you can do is just Spotify is there, and you have one breakdown to land as the mushroom cloud goes off, and you just have to watch it. What is the breakdown that will be the most appropriate? And it has to be a breakdown. None of this like, well, I'd actually go with like a jazz song, you know, it's like there's already, it has to be a breakdown.
Always look on the bright side of life.
I think I got it.
Burbs got it.
Alrighty. Okay. Think about this now. You get one answer. Actually, you can have more than one answer.
Are we going for like the most explosive breakdown or personal taste? Like what is...
Whatever you think. Like you could go with like the like Lorna Shore Prison of Flesh, like just ridiculously heavy, or you could go with something that is a little bit more emotionally inclined, but still really, really heavy, like something in the Thaw world that's like atmospheric and beautiful in a way.
Yeah, if it's end of the world and nuclear bomb, I'm doing Disembodied Tyrant, the Poetic Edda.
Okay,
that ending.
It's classical. Is that as classical albums?
So the ending is just like fucking. It literally, the music video is just like flames everywhere and just like end of the world. It's pretty huge.
Steve, have you got one?
I don't know that this is the best one, but it's what I thought of. It's like one of my favorite sort of payoff moments. I'd just be shouting at the mushroom cloud to that I say you're a cunt, which is from Bring Me the Horizon.
Yeah, that's not
because I just loved that bill. I'm full of sound. I say you're a, and then it goes into the heaviness, and you can't time it perfectly right, but like just shouting "fuck you, you cunt" to the fucking nuclear warhead would be one way to try and go out, I suppose.
Yeah, I'm not sure that would give you the desired outcome with the nuke just going like, you know what, he's right, just turns around.
But it's kind of like, well, the end's coming, I'll give you two of these. All right.
Yeah, because I was only thinking I think it was like is it Fit for a King? Did they do a video like not too long ago where they had like a nuke going off? It was like a metalcore song with the nuke going off, and it was like a beautiful moment in a video. It's like there's something nice. It was like a couple like embracing as the nuke goes off in the background. But yeah, so that's what I was thinking. I actually don't have an answer for this. My
Alt?
head tells me like something like Alt, HLB, but they just seem so fucking obvious. I think I would go with something a little bit like slower paced and droney. I think it would be more appropriate for the kind of like the beauty of the mushroom cloud, and then all of a sudden it's maybe like Labyrinthian or something by Humanity's Last Breath, but it's like that's very abrasive as well. The breakdown towards the end, but then it's too groovy. Like, but I suppose I'd want to be grooving my way out, you know. Just
Cellar Door might be a good one.
I don't think it's dark enough for a nuke.
The end of that, just
it is dark, but I don't know. I feel like it needs to be somewhat atmospheric as well.
You know what I actually would have is Chacarone. Have you heard Chacarone?
Chaperone? What?
That would be the total like buzzkill where I'm just like, what the fuck? And then I wouldn't even think about the bomb going off.
I would have New Delhi by
21. Sorry,
just like, what the fuck is happening? And then all of a sudden, like, you die. You don't even think about it.
Can you sing us a bit of that, Drew?
Don't.
Oh,
fuck, I gotta go. Skibbity
all I gotta do is Chacarone, and Chacarone.
Yeah, so. Yeah, I'd probably go. I was thinking maybe like Anodyne by Atlas, just because I've been listening to that a lot recently. I love that song. Again, it's like Buster Core. I feel like Buster Out of Home just makes the best nuke music.
There's a quote for his next album. Well, I mean, one thing we haven't talked about yet is, given we think metal is not going anywhere and it's doing well, Certainly. What did Drew just flip his hair because Verb did?
Yes.
So we're all just like imitating
I
you,
couldn't
Steve.
even pretend with that. Like, what bands do you think are on the verge of helping the metal universe become even more prevalent and are getting to the point where they're on the verge, maybe the next few years, of headlining arenas on tour that maybe might not be on people's radars to do so, but we can see the future?
Headlining festivals is fucking tough, but bands
I said
that
arenas.
Okay, arenas. Still though,
Yeah.
bands that will do well. I got some answers, but arenas. Ugh.
Yeah, that's the hard part, isn't it? Because there's so many answers that are like, yeah, I love this band and I think it's going to do really, really well. Yeah. But arenas, I don't know if they're getting. It's like
5 years.
Next 5 years, like 3 like Sleep Tokens, which Sleep Tokens been an outlier.
Yeah, because we have to look at the bands that are currently headlining arenas to have some perspective on like what the next 5 years could look like. And the bands that I'm thinking of, I'm like, they're so good, but do I see them garnering enough attention and ticket sales and monthly listeners to be in a position where they can do that? And the answer is no for some of them. Like, for example, the first band that comes to my mind, which is probably, I'm going to say is probably in Steve's list, but I think Steve logically will know this probably is impossible based on their current sound. But I listened to the new Vower EP this morning. It's so fucking good. It's unbelievably good.
You heard it, Verb? Yeah.
I've heard like all the singles. I haven't heard it in front to back, but yeah, you know how much I fucking love that band.
Dude, you need to hear it.
Yeah.
You need to hear
I didn't realize I heard 4 of the 6 songs from it already, but yeah, it's fucking good, man. They're so good.
Yes, so, but you make a good point that it doesn't really matter how good the music is, in our opinion. It needs to have traction. It needs to have a bit of kind of snowball effect of interest and enough that people identify themselves with it, that they'll go to repeated shows to help them grow ticket sales. All that kind of matters, and production levels and all of that. Which Vower are so early on.
It's social media following is huge. How they market and package the whole thing. I don't know if you've seen the recent conversation with Rogan Josh and Dan Searle from Architects, the drummer, where Dan basically was like, look, we've seen that our peers that are doing extremely well. Now, Architects are no small fish here. They're a big band, but there's levels when it comes to, you know, ticket sales and everything else and popularity. He was basically acknowledging that, like, all of our peers that are doing well, like Bad Omen and Sleep Token, they have like this interwoven theme that runs through their music. It's not just the music, it's their social media tied into their live shows, tied into their albums, tied into their artwork, tied into their merch. It's all like very meticulously thought out. And he makes a good point, and he was just like, look, Architects are never going to be that. We're not that band. We don't have this lore attached, and that's such a big part of sales. We've seen for like arenas, because like which other bands are doing arenas right now that don't? I mean, apart from the kind of rock adjacent, but I'm thinking of Ghost off the top of my head, but they do have like a
they do
tied to them,
but like
well.
Turnstile,
Turnstile's a good show.
While She Sleeps, do they have a lore thing? Not really. Their lore is like, you know, we're one of you, we're all together. Like, it doesn't have to be lore specific or theme specific, but it has to be something that feels like a movement, like you want to identify yourself with that band and what they stand for. And that could be lyrically, it could be in terms of how they represent themselves stylistically. And so one avenue is that stuff. I think it's incorrect to say that's why those bands are doing well versus others. I think you have to have something connected between the fandom and the new potential fandom with that artist beyond just the music. That is true. For someone to want to go to a live experience, you need something a little bit more than, I heard the songs live. Hooray.
You nailed it with the movement, because that's Turnstile. Turnstile is that movement for like punk kids that are also indie heads too.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, like, I hear what you're saying. I meant more like if I'm looking at something like Vower, for example, like musically, if it's just purely on talent from what I've heard, yeah, put them in an arena. But do I think like musically, obviously right now they're early doors, so it's hard to do like for like, but like musically, do I see that style of music making it to an arena if we're putting a time limit on the next like 5 to 10 years? If I'm being honest, not really. Like, I
think I agree. In 5 years, I don't think they in their current trajectory, no, but they're brilliant. They're going to do well because they are a little different. The comparison I think of for them is like, Deftones. They don't. There isn't like a whole thematic thing to it, but like it's just powerful music in itself. And those that discover it and enjoy it will likely continue to discover and enjoy it because they're kind of sticking within the lane that they're doing that works.
Deftones have also been around for a long time, and this is a different landscape for growing a band.
I agree. So this is also why I don't think like it won't be a 5-year thing for them to headline Wembley Arena unless they, I don't know, who knows what they might do with a new album or get support gigs. Anything could happen, but like they wouldn't be top of my list for arena headline in the next few years.
You throw a mask on them now, all of a sudden. That's all I'm saying.
But another comparison band is Thrice. And Thrice are massive and they've been going for a long time in their own way, but like, I don't think they're headlining Wembley Arena.
No, God, no. But like speaking of like Thrice, Vower and Thrice are very similar bands in some aspects. You go see them live, they'll both do a lot of the same things. Like they're just powerhouses meant to be heard live.
Yes. Yeah. But interestingly, a band that I think are arena headliners in the next 5 years who have amazing music and is powerful. But I think there is a real strong connection between those who listen to it, who identify personally with the lyrics and enjoy the moments and connect them live and will be on this trajectory.
Can I guess?
Yeah, do guess.
Just on what you said. President?
Not who I was thinking of.
Okay.
But I do want to talk about them. I was thinking of The Plot in You.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So
that makes sense. Yeah.
Every time they play London, they play a bigger venue. The gig they just played, they upgraded the venue a couple of times because the demand was so high. And those that go to the live experience have a like chant along, shout along moment, these like vulnerable, epic, lyrical things. And their production's going up. And those people are going to keep coming back. And then new fans will discover them because their singles are so interesting and compelling. And the music videos are kind of curious. That I could see just continuing to grow. And they release singles regularly rather than albums. So the momentum is there to grow. I can see them in the next 5 years, which is still a chunk of time, being a potential arena headliner.
They're weirdly underrated. They've been around for a long time too. And Landon Tours is easily one of the top vocalists right now. So I can see it too. Like if The Plot in You writes a song that's like a little Sleep Token-y or Bad Omens-y, like I think they'll do it. Like if they do like that mysterious sound, because they usually do like these either something like really heavy or something that's like a little bit more hard, like rock with like a big chorus and like some electronics. They're good in both those aspects where it's almost like a little Bring Me the Horizon. But if they did something that was a little bit more mysterious and slower pace and then had like this big crescendo moment or something, like
they do that. Like the most recent song, Silence, it starts quiet and vulnerable, and then it builds to this epic thing. But I don't want them to start making.
And then wear a mask too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got
President.
Oh, President.
They're also on my list.
Yeah. The reason
I don't necessarily think the music is so fucking phenomenal that they ought to be headlining arenas. I think it's good. It is good enough that those that like them will enjoy it. But they certainly have that connection between audience and fan base and people wanting to get behind them and know more about them and just craving a bit more. And because of the mystique of it, you kind of want to go to see it live because you want to be in the room and feel something connected to them in that new way. And that I think will also, they have a great management team behind them and they're, supporting huge acts on arena tours. I don't see any signs of stopping and they'll get better and they'll arena headline the next 5 years. No question.
That's the safe bet.
Yeah. Okay. Let's throw a spanner in the works here. Is there a band that isn't the likes of your like Dayseekers, Presidents, more like alternative or co-metal as we would call it? Is there like a let's say like an orbit culture? Okay. Is there any bands that spring to mind that are, I guess, like more close to stereotypical metal that you could see in the next 5 years doing arenas, or even 10 years? Like a band that you think is on the fucking come up that is really just balls to the wall heavy.
I don't think arenas, but like they're going to get more and more popular. Is Disembodied Tyrant. They're getting bigger and bigger. But the thing is, like, I don't know if you guys follow them on social media, but Blake got into a freak, the singer and songwriter guitarist got into a freak accident. So that's going to put them, I guess, for like a year or something. So that's kind of disappointing, but I just know there's a lot of hype with that band. They're getting booked onto like festivals as like, one of the opening bands. but they're truly like the next thing in like deathcore. There's a lot of buzz around these guys, and like I've listened to a lot of deathcore, and these guys, when I first heard some of their new music, like because like they've been friends of my Discord channel actually, because their old vocalist was part of my Discord community, or he still is. But then hearing the new stuff, I'm like, holy shit, this is actually next level. This is honestly insane metal. It's like extreme. Steve, I know it's not your taste, but if for like the deathcore stuff, it really stood out. And now for like only having EPs, not even an album, and they're getting onto like festivals and stuff as like, you know, openers still. But I think there's a lot of potential with those guys.
Did they do that song, the Blackout 8.6? Yeah,
that song's
enjoyed
insane.
That was cool.
Yeah,
it's so ridiculously heavy, and just like what Drew was saying about like the political movement, that song actually had some genuine anger with its lyrics.
You mentioned Orbit Culture. I don't think it's beyond the realm of. They're a very popular band.
Yeah,
so they could be in the conversation for arena headlines in the next 5 years.
Yeah, this Body Tyrant are actually playing in Dublin in March. I wonder I don't know how long Blake's recovery is, but it'd be interesting to see if he makes that. I don't know how long he's.
Yeah, they got a couple of fill-ins right now, but who knows? But yeah, Orbit Culture, actually, that kind of, you know what band would actually headline festivals, but like they're in the same level as Plotting You, is Imminence. Imminence would be up there.
Yeah,
they're a band to watch out for.
Yeah,
true. They're getting more and more popular as well. People that like them love them.
Yeah.
So that's
they got the lore too a little bit. Yeah, or no, not even a little bit. They definitely got the lore. And
staging, theatrical nature.
Oh, yeah,
it's a visual spectacle.
Yeah.
They're about to headline the Roundhouse in London with a live orchestra, which would be pretty fucking epic.
Yeah.
So they're making the right moves.
Yeah. We're playing it safe here, lads. Imminence 900,000 monthly listeners, Plotting You 2.9 million. Like these are huge.
Yeah, these are big bands.
So we need
Thornhill.
You want to answer that I've been thinking of is like, again, they won't headline festivals or anything, or again arenas, but Asava I think are doing something special if their second album is better than the first album, which I hope it does more exciting things, because their first album I'm iffy about some things, but I think there's a lot of potential with those guys. And also I would shout out Black Shape, even though I don't think they would be, their music's a little too not mainstream enough.
Yeah,
but I think in the prog world, Black Shape is definitely a band to pay attention to.
Yeah,
okay,
for sure. I think it's hard to pick something that's like heavy and like underground and realistically be able to stand there and be like, yeah, this band might be doing something in 5 years or 10 years, because you know the current information that we have doesn't suggest that these bands are going to be doing any sort of. But then again, maybe because we've had such a big, this could be interesting in like 5 years to come back to this, even 10 years, because we have such a massive rise of people flooding into the scene, new time fans. We spoke about the Bad Omens concert with the new fans. Those fans, yeah, they might just, you know, stroll in for a couple of months and then they'll find something else, or they'll, like most of us do, they'll hear the heavier stuff and they won't love it as much, but then they'll, you know, slowly over time, the heavy stuff will grow on them. They'll start to seek out heavier stuff. And then in 5 years, all of those new fans, on top of all of the already existing metal fans, will be a bigger number, hopefully. And then maybe there will be this, like, you know, heavier bands that have been doing it for a couple of years, maybe Orbit Culture, who knows? They have enough of an audience there that are listening to them on a regular basis to be able to do these arena shows. Maybe we'll see that transition. Yep. I don't know if that will ever be the case, but it would be, you know, if you're going to follow trends, the trend is right now people are floating into the scene with Sleep Token, Bad Omens, Dayseekers, the Plotting You, all these big, like, kind of alternative metal bands, but they're exposing them to heavy stuff, and then we might get a big influx of people that start to listen to the heavier stuff, you know?
Yeah. Well, I can only hope. I can see that. But it's hard to predict future trends, and that will dictate what kinds of music ends up launching. Right now, as Drew was saying, we can kind of see the trend that's going on in the growth in the, dare I say, cum metal world, for sure. But other things are maybe less predictable. Alt is another one. If you're looking early on a band, I think could, if they continue to get even better and grow. They're a very complete band overall. Maybe they need more of that stickiness connection between themselves and the audience in some way, but the music is fucking phenomenal, and their live sound and performance is terrific as well. So they're good. I mentioned, I don't know if you heard it, but Thornhill, they're kind of in the same sort of world as these other bands we're talking about, but they are on their trajectory up to the fucking moon.
Yep, I would agree with that. I'm not even like crazy about Bodies, but just seeing all the hype around it, like
fucking love Bodies.
Yeah,
so good.
Mercia, that's the new name or the new song, right?
Yeah,
I fucking love that
one. We could probably. Could you see like a Knocked Loose on their next album cycle or the album cycle following that being big enough for arenas?
Yep.
Yes,
I think something like Knocked Loose could do that.
They're already like almost there.
Are they almost doing arenas? Yeah, so they're definitely one to look out for.
They're not like almost, but I can see them with their next album. Like they definitely are at the top.
Yeah, for sure. Spirit Box are already doing it.
Yeah. Electric Callboy's doing it already. Architects are doing it.
How about just shout out the underground bands? Because like not like maybe arenas, but bands that we just think will do fucking well. Because like my 3 are Disembodied Tyrant, Black Sheep, and Asava.
In a similar kind of world. I mean, one that there was a comment on one of our previous videos being like, fucking Steve is so boring mentioning this band in every fucking episode. It's not been every episode. But also, if it's correct, it's correct. Gore.
Yeah.
Steve, shut up. Gore, man.
Yeah, shut the fuck up, bro.
It's true. Fucking Haley just did a feature on a Keith Wallen song. It was a Breaking Benjamin dude. So like,
I couldn't believe. Sorry to cut across, Steve. You're telling me that Keith Wallen hasn't been the guy on lead vocals for Breaking Benjamin all these years? Like, they sound the fucking exact same. Like, I'm trying to figure out, like, I feel like Ben from Breaking Benjamin, the lead vocalist, has such a unique voice. Like, you hear him straight away and you're like, oh. Like, that's why when you hear, like, some of the Chris Motionless choruses, you're like, oh, it sounds like Breaking Benjamin, because he's got such a unique style in his delivery. How the fuck have they got 2 of those people in the same band? Like, 2 unique vocalists like that in the exact same range. Like, it literally sounds like they have Ben doing that song. I know you're not too familiar with Breaking Benjamin, Steve, but like I was listening to that and I was like, wait, they've got 2 of these people that can do this style of vocal in the exact same fucking band, and he's just been like sidelined. No wonder he's doing his own thing.
Yeah, that was very good. Yeah, Gore, I think, is a no-brainer to do very, very well. One of the bands that we all love, I just don't know about, like, it's hard to predict, but Villanova, I think, are exceptional, but they're pretty out there for most people to really like easily vibe with. So I think they would, if they potentially for their next album go creatively open in another direction that actually goes in a more mainstream sound, but in a cool, unusual, authentic kind of way, then maybe they could go into a new realm. But they're hard to predict based on their current sound being big enough. But
I don't think they're a band that's going to stick to metalcore. Like, I think they're way too creative for that. Like, sure, they're pulling the metalcore audience right now, but like all these bands kind of blow up because they escape that metalcore trap. Wait till Villanova writes 2 or 3 albums and they're like, okay, we don't want to just write breakdowns and riffs. We want to do something more different to stand out from their contemporaries. So I think Villanova's a great show. I think they will do something crazy.
They will definitely grow. It's whether, because there's fucking amazing bands out there that aren't going to be like Wembley Arena headliners. Like, I'm thinking of things like we mentioned earlier, Thrice, of Mice and Men. They've been great for fucking years, but they're probably not going to Wembley Arena headline unless they do like an anniversary of an album tour or something. So Villanova, as fucking excellent as they are, I don't know if their trajectory is like a Wembley Arena headliner, but we can't really predict the future there because they're so unpredictable.
Like we've mentioned so many bands that are already massively bigger than Villanova that also aren't doing Wembley Arena. So it's not as if it's like a diss to be like, oh, I don't know if that's their trajectory, because that is like a fucking 1% of the 1% to be doing the Wembley Arena. So I think if any band could mold a world that is very interesting beyond just the music that maybe captivates an audience, it would be the likes of a Vine. Like they're very creative, like we've already mentioned. They have already kind of built their own little worlds within their music. So if there was ever a band that could figure something like that out, because their music is great, like they've got one of the best albums of the year released, and on top of that, they've already got their own little world going on. So if they just decide to like really lock in, and if they want to go down the world building route where they kind of make a big theme out of their whole music and tie in this storyline, which might bring in more people and you know, attach people to the lore, who knows? I mean, the world is their oyster at that point, because musically, of course, is always the main thing, because there's no bands that are doing Wembley Arena that it's probably going to be counters to this, but have shit music. You know what I mean? Like the music has to be. I'm trying to think. There's probably some bands that I would say have shit music that have headlined Wembley Arena, but yeah, the point is that they've already got the most important part ticked off from the small sample size of music that we've got from them. Their album's incredible. Can they build on it and maybe do something that further separates them from the pack?
I think so. Their music has always stood out. I remember the first time I heard them with Hypersomniac. Have you guys watched the music video where he's like an astronaut?
Yeah, it's the first thing I saw of theirs.
Yeah, like I remember hearing that. I'm like, this breakdown is actually fucking sick. And then I clipped it, and then other people ended up loving it too. And they've just always had it. And I think that's a band that just wants to constantly be creative. Just listen to Alex, right? Steve, you've talked to him many times. He definitely wants to keep reinventing himself, sounds like.
Yeah.
You know, it's a band that has all of the ingredients, but I just don't know. Like something like Northlane is
I have them on my list.
Yeah, they're like, they have the dancey elements. They've got like the cool production. I haven't seen them live, but by all accounts, they're very good live.
Awesome live.
Yeah, they're actually they're playing in Dublin, so I will get a chance to see them soon.
Go.
But that's a band as well. But I feel like they don't really come up in conversation much anymore. I know they haven't had had an album in a while. They're not really talked about band, which is kind of sad.
Alien, they were like in so many people's conversation. Then Obsidian, I think, that died it down a little bit, and then that new EP, people were like, they kind of liked it, but yeah, they're kind of not part of the conversation as much anymore. And then they just dropped their like a new remix of Node, which people like. That's the OG fan. So I think Northlane really needs to do something creative and like still stick to their electronics, but like I see them kind of like not being part of the conversation as much lately.
It's strange because to me, their best work is on that latest EP and Obsidian. They have great songs on Alien, don't get me wrong, but like Dante, for example, like is just such an arena song.
Craft is awesome.
Yeah, there's some fucking incredible songs. The one with Ian Kenny, After Image, unbelievably good as well. Like their melody choices are so good. Yeah. It's an odd one. I think maybe the way that EP was rolled out was a little bit disappointing for me. It was like a lot of singles and then just the EP dropped and it was kind of just forgotten about because there was no real new content on it apart from like one or two new songs. It just rubbed me the wrong way a little bit.
I'm really fucking pulling for them. I think if they could find a new angle or a new edge somewhere, you know, I think musically they're fucking awesome. I love it. They just need to find maybe a new way to position it that brings a whole new kind of fan base in that helps them grow, perhaps. But yeah, I think they're like massively underappreciated.
I feel like the two times they peaked, this is all just from personal experience, just seeing like online forums and stuff, but like with Singularity was when they were really getting talked about in like the Gent forums and stuff. And then it was Alien. Alien was like Northlane was the band that like r/metalcore was hyping up and all this stuff. Then Obsidian kind of died down a little bit, even though I think Obsidian's probably like a better album start to finish, even though I like the songs on Alien more. But then like the new EP, like you said, Steve, I think they needed to have like a new angle or something, be part of that conversation.
Yeah, it's tricky, isn't it? Because like a band of Northlane stature who's so good, and we're still sitting here. This is why, like, going back to Rick Beato and the conversation around like monthly listeners, like Northlane have to compete against so many different bands. Like Northlane shouldn't have to be one of these bands that should have to try so hard to get people to like them. People still listen to them. We're making it sound like Northlane completely fell off here, but like I haven't heard Northlane being spoken about in a while, apart from the recent album drop, because obviously that brought their name back up a little bit more. But like that is the competition we're talking about. That Northlane being the band that they are, and they're still competing with all of the other peers in their subgenre, and then beyond that as well. It's not just like the metalcore space, it's fucking all of these different core genres and then everything else that ties into the metal umbrella. It's insane. So yeah.
I have another band in mind that I think will actually do really well, but they're taking a long time. And just like what you were saying, Drew, about like, you know, how things are evolving and changing, that is their music still going to be as relevant because it's been some time? But Loathe, it's been, the hype around them has been huge, but I feel like it's like diminishing just a little bit because it's taking so damn long for their album to drop. What was it, 2020 was I Let It In? So it's going to be like 6 years since they dropped something. They're still getting on like booked on these tours. Like they're getting a lot of good tours, right? They're still a prominent band, but they're just not talked about enough. And like weirdly, like another off topic, but kind of on topic, was like Grand Theft Auto 6. It got delayed again. But like if you think about the hype around it, like was huge, and people are now getting pissed off. And like, but the trends are changing so much and stuff. And like with like AI, that you look at other games like, oh, maybe people don't want to have these things that people were interested in like 5 years ago when we first started. But like that could be with Loathe. They had all these ideas, and then they're probably just refining it constantly. And just like with Northlane, like their music, like now the stuff that's like really popular is like the cum metal. And Northlane could do that. Northlane could be that cum metal band with like some electronics for sure. They already have Nova, which is on my cum metal playlist, by the way. Really good. And Sleepless, but that's like a cry cum metal.
Yeah, that's
Sad Boy Crywank.
Yeah, Sad Boy Crywank, right.
Let's not forget. One band you mentioned in the lead up to our chat here, Drew, we've actually not talked about, is Polaris. They're just about to tour in support of Linkin Park across Australia.
Huge.
That's fucking massive for them.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been a couple of years since Fatalism album. Obviously, they're going to have a more difficult time figuring out how to write the next whatever it is that they do, because they've had a band member change, as it were. So that's going to be interesting to see what happens with them in the future. But they're doing great things. Their trajectory is still on the up. So I could see them potentially headlining arenas at some stage if they keep getting this kind of momentum.
Yeah, they seem like a pretty obvious pick for me, just with arenas, because they've smashed every show I've seen people mention them in. The download performance I've heard was one of the better ones, and they just they smash it live. So it seems like just strength to strength. So yeah, I guess the next album's gonna be, I can't wait for another Polaris album. I think that Fatalism album was like, I think it got its flowers, but I think when I go back to it, I'm like, this is a slept on album still. It's so fucking good. There's just such good, like, you know, we've spoken about it before, but they are like the band for modern metalcore without the bells and whistles. You know, it's like
they've crushed that.
Just straight up modern metalcore. It's fucking so good. So yeah, that's one to look forward to. Maybe 2026.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a good year, actually. I was kind of worried because 2025 has been so stacked. Like, are we going to get good
amazing
stuff?
This year's been fucking bonkers.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. 2025 is absolutely insane. That is 2026 going to be good, because I'm worried that we're getting all the good albums this year. But like, no, Polaris, Loathe, I think those are two great shows. Fuck, man, you just remind me. I got to go listen to that Polaris record again, because like, oh god, they just have bounce figured out perfectly.
And
Nightmare is one of my favorite metalcore songs of all time. It's fucking perfect. But yeah, what's interesting about the music this year is that I think it's been an incredible year for music, and not because of like the established big hitter bands. Like obviously with Sleep Token are prominent, they've released an album this year, but like it's the newcomers, it's the lesser knowns that have been the more exciting ones for me this year. So that's really fucking cool, and that could happen any year in the future. I
think me too.
Yeah, for sure. And I did actually want to mention it as well, but the Loathe hype. I've had this thing for a while now where I'm just like not excited for new Loathe. I'm like, maybe if I got it, like maybe if I got a year, like got it like a new album like a year after I heard I Let It In, but I just don't really see what separates Loathe that much from other bands that are in the scene right now. I'm like, I don't think Kadeem is the best vocalist ever. He's good and he fits his role well for the style of music that Loathe play. But it's very like drop tune, baritone, low stuff with like unhinged screams, some riffs in there the odd time. But I just feel, I don't know, I'm not excited for Loathe. I'm
kind of surprised because with how much you love I Let It In and Took Everything.
I loved it when I listened to it, and I think it is an incredible album from start to finish, but it is rare that I'll go back to it. It's kind of one of those albums that I think I had a lot of time with, and it's just one that I don't think is, it's a great album, but like I think mainly it's probably based off of their recent single, the one that they came back with. I just didn't really fuck with that single, and maybe I think they're an album band as well, so it's probably taken them out of context slightly. So
that song, I remember not really like loving it at first, but it's come like on my like shuffle, like on rotation. I'm like, damn, the song's actually really sweet. I've grown to like it, but I totally hear what you're saying, and I also just think it goes back to my point how like the trends and are changing. That like that shoegazy prog metalcore stuff is probably not as interesting anymore, because like now even our tastes are changing to other things. We're hearing like Villanova, we're hearing all these other bands, and like the hype for Loathe is diminishing because they're taking so long with their record. But you know, I'm being optimistic that I think these guys are very inventive and they don't want to be like anybody else. That maybe that's why they're taking so long. And I actually have heard that they're being total perfectionists with their music. And I think hopefully in 2026 we get something, and like it's not just going to be that shoegazy with Kadeem screaming "Steve doesn't care," but no, I'm still hyped for it. And then maybe 2026 Steve will become a Loathe stan and wearing Loathe shirts all the time.
I don't see it. But I think the main thing for me is that like it's funny how you get like almost shoehorned into different genres. Like when I started listening to metal music, it was never to listen to like post-hardcore or shoegazy music, but obviously it's so interwoven with a lot of modern metal stuff that you start to listen to it, and then people like suggest you check out other bands, and I'm like, oh, I actually never really enjoy this style of music. So when Loathe go into that realm of like shoegaze and the more like airy atmospheric choruses and stuff, it's not really my thing at all. I love that album because of like the dark theme of it and the heavier stuff. It was like really unhinged screams, the like fucking around with the production they were doing with all the glitchy like transitions and stuff. That for me was what made that album really memorable. So more of that and less of the shoegazy stuff to me is where Loathe will excel personally.
I think that's a hot take personally. I love the shoegazy stuff, and like looking at the Spotify numbers, like Is It Really You, Two-Way Mirror, Screaming, it's all those songs that are most popular. Those are the ones I like the most, actually. Like the Gourd, I like it how heavy it is, but to me it's all about like their shoegazy and like atmospheric stuff that I think is really beautiful. When they go like very Deftonesy, which look at how popular Deftones is still. That's why I think Loathe, it will be still relevant. But god damn it, just release the album already.
Yeah. I guess we'll see. See what happens in 2026. That'll be a fun separate video to do of what we're excited for or what we anticipate in 2026. There's still a lot of bands. I feel like we like 2023 was huge. It was so ridiculous. It was chaotic. 2024, I feel like, was just naturally that lull after 2023. I don't know if it's because 2023 had so many popular bands that naturally there had to be a break. And then 2025 was like a lot of those bands coming back. And now maybe 2026 will be the same. But like we were mentioning, there's been so many new bands that have been discovered this year that I'm now like fully in for the next album cycle. It just means that like the more this snowballs and the more this happens, every year will just be jam-packed, because it's like, as Sleep Token have now been 2 years since they put out their album, and we've been listening to all these new fun albums, and then Sleep Token's back again, and it's just like, you know, you have this constant conveyor belt of new bands to look forward to. So
sounds great.
It does, dude. And also, you never even talked about Zenobia.
Oh yeah. Well, I don't know how much I can. I don't know how much is.
You probably can.
Well, no, and just in terms of hype and what you think.
In hype. Well, fucking hell, yeah, that's been insane. Like, obviously, there's behind the scenes stuff that I'm not going to disclose in the podcast, but yeah, like, I mean, that's been insane as well. Like, Burb, your fucking Instagram short and shit like that with like 2 million views or some shit, like absolutely mental. Like the fact that artist an independent artist, and this again is another kind of counterpoint to the Rick Beato situation. This would have never been possible for someone essentially making music. I don't want to speak for her, but like essentially making music from her like home, just doing her own thing, all her own production and writing, to all of a sudden absolutely skyrocket. I think she's at like 300,000 monthly listeners now off of 2 songs. Woo! And she was at 500,000 at one point. Like the Throne of One song has 500,000 views on YouTube now. It's absolutely absurd.
And don't say it was me with my short, because fucking Drew, you blew up that song. And then like I made a video for it afterwards. And then she asked me just like, oh, are you going to make a short for this? I'm like, I actually said like, oh, I don't know. Like I literally wasn't sure if I had time to do it. And then like a few days later, I'm like, oh, you know what? I'll do it because people seem to really like it on YouTube. And then, it fucking blew up. Like the song people are really liking that song, but it was initially you that started that snowball. Yeah.
I mean, look, at the end of the day, when hindsight is 2020, someone would have done it. If it wasn't us, it was going to be someone else, or she would have posted a video that would eventually went, because the amount of effort that's gone into the visuals, and it's just so on brand with the way in which all of the things we've discussed in this episode so far, with like what makes bands popular these days, or I guess what is definitely helping to get bands exposed. Their music still has to be good in the first place. So she was ticking a lot of those boxes. The video was fucking incredible. And like that was a cool moment, and to be somewhat a part of it, I guess, just being involved in the content creation around it and being at the ground level, it's fucking cool.
I'm enjoying the humility is fucking awesome. But as we said, I think maybe the last episode, like the music itself has to be good, and as you were saying there, Drew, the audience would have found it eventually. But it's amazing we can help accelerate that.
Sure, that's it exactly. I think someone else would have done it. Yeah.
It's good to be humble, but also I think we also have to pat ourselves on the back too, because we're trying to expose these bands. We're not just reacting to the popular bands as we can look at other reaction channels doing. We're doing our best to blow up these Black Shapes, Sasavas, Cenobias, Breakaways, and stuff. We're doing a lot, even like Disembodied Tyrant early on, Song of the Year, and like people are like, oh, shut up, Burb, clickbait title, and then they listen to it like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I did that with Whatever All Right by Villanova. You're right, Bird, but the problem is we're Irish, so we're not allowed to publicly pat ourselves on the back.
I got a little bit of Irish in me, but also like I'm like close neighbors to USA, and they're not humble at all. So
yeah. Well, look, it's
we love our USA audience. Thank you for being here. Fucking
our subscribers
I love you guys so much right now as a Canadian.
But yeah, that's exciting times. It is really cool to be a part of anything. Like even if the video doesn't do well and it gets like 1,000 views, but you found a band that you're like equally as excited about, it's still cool, regardless of whether or not it goes and gets ridiculous amount of views. Just to be able to be like, that was impressive. This is gonna blow up. You know.
So that's one of the most fun things to do. And before the land of YouTube, one of the most fun things to do if you're into music is to discover a band that most people haven't heard yet and be like, oh, I'm going to share this with all my friends. They're going to fucking love it. Like, that's what we get to do to the world. It's fucking so much fun.
It's so much fun. The best fucking feeling, like doing this reaction content, is helping these bands like propel in their careers. It is so gratifying. It is literally the so grateful that I can even do this by just like watching a music video. Like it's very simple in format, but like I talked about Aviations, I think on the last podcast, but they literally wrote a new album because of like the people's perception and just like how much they love that one song. Like us making content and then seeing all the engagement from comments and everything just like fuels the fire for these bands to write more music. And I think that is just so fucking gratifying and exciting.
Yeah, especially given that it's really hard for bands to make money in the current, world of music. Actually, always kind of has been. So anything we could do to get them sooner to earning enough money that they don't have to do jobs in addition to the music and they can focus on that, the fucking better for them and for everyone that likes their music. So, fuck yeah. Well, we've covered a lot of ground today, but metal scene is in a good place. It's an exciting place. It is continuing to grow. And what's happened?
I'm just laughing because it's definitely not dead. Metal is not dead.
Oh, yeah.
Just talking like one of our longest podcasts.
Explaining why. This is our version of having like the map of all the strings and be like, here, look at this. But yes. So thank you. Hopefully you agree with this as well. And maybe shout out some bands that you think are going to be up and coming massive hits that are in the metal scene in the comments here. I'd love to see some other takes, maybe some bands that we've missed. You're like, how did you fucking forget these folks? Let us know. I won't unfortunately have time to record a bonus episode today, but we'll try and sort that out soon. Sure. But thank you for tuning in. Do subscribe if you haven't already. It's free to do so, but also become a member of our YouTube channel and Patreon for extra bonus content as well. Thank you for being here. Catch you.
Cheers, folks.
Peace.